Are you ready to get super rich and super bored? When we start looking at the boring portfolios, we're going to break down why boring is better when it comes to becoming rich. When we start thinking of those get rich quick schemes, they sound great. Most of them often do fail with very little success. Flashy investment strategies, cryptocurrency, risky business ventures. There are a lot of things that lead to stress, lead to losses, and often financial ruin. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down why boring is better. Now, real wealth comes from being very disciplined, very patient, and very predictable strategies. Boring doesn't mean ineffective. Boring means reliable, repeatable, proven for an extended amount of time. So the first one we look at, investing in index funds. When we start thinking about those low cost index funds, it is really the best way to invest. Looking and knowing a lot of financial advisors, which I am not one personally, index funds is the game changer. That is the way to go. When you start looking even at wealth generation, when you look at financial gurus, it is about building and buying those index funds. Even looking at billionaire Warren Buffett saying everyone should be invested in the S&P 500, that is the big reason. When you start looking at picking individual stocks, it's a game. Most people are going to lose. There could be some winners like Nvidia, Google, Apple, depending when you invest. But for a majority of people, when you start looking at managed funds, they are a lot more expensive. People struggle, especially being down in a bear market. You might even feel the pinch a little bit more if you have those actively managed funds because you are paying a lot more. This is where index funds, and I know Vanguard has really upped itself in lowering fees across pretty much all of its index funds, making even the cheap index funds even cheaper. When we start spreading your risk across the entire S&P 500, it provides steady long-term growth. Long-term growth is going to continue to build wealth generation. It's not about the emotional roller coaster. It's not about the ups and downs. It's about setting an investment portfolio, sticking with it, and really just letting it ride. When you look at the S&P 500, has grown an average of 10.52 over the last 30 years. Think about something of that track record. You're talking 10.52%. When we start looking at 4% for high yield savings accounts, maybe 4.25% for those CD rates. If you could lock in 10.52% in a CD rate and guarantee it, it would be incredible. However, the last 30 years, that's exactly what it has performed. Even when we think of the SPY, it has risen 1,180% since 1993, which is kind of crazy looking at the 10.9% growth that we do see out of there. It's incredible. Second one, buying and holding real estate. Now, this is not about house flipping. That is the glam. That is the TV shows, flip or flop, the Property Brothers, whatever you want to do. House flipping can be super glamorous. However, a ton of people can lose their entire savings, their entire life savings, their retirement savings, everything. Real money in real estate comes from buying and holding. That is something that Shark Tank millionaire Barbara Corcoran told Realtor.com, the slow way to get very rich, because if you're buying and you're holding, not only are you having a very steady cash inflow that is coming from the renters that are in there, but over time, property values tend to rise, meaning you're kind of double dipping in there. You have an income that is coming in on a regular basis. You have the asset value that is going up in term. Long-term real estate investors don't waste money on rushed renovations, risky flips when they bring in the quick profits. It's about slow and steady progression. When you own one house, you can generate a little bit of cash flow to buy a next one, and so on. When you start getting, 5, 10, 15 homes that you're renting out, you could be buying one every couple months with the steady cash flow that's coming in and the property value that is increasing. Now, the third one we look at is automating savings. This is one of the absolute biggest things that people overlook, guys. Manually putting money into a savings account takes effort that people don't want to do. They don't want to see it out of their paycheck. They don't want to see it out of their account. They don't want to manually do this process. This is where automatic savings eliminates the decision-making process with if you're going to save money or if you're not going to save money. This is the same really thought in the really emotional buying that we see for people who don't want to save any money or can't save any money or really think they can't save any money. But when it comes to things like 401k, just automatically doing it and making sure that it is automatically going through, it is not about the get rich quick schemes. It is about making sure that money is saved before money can be spent. It's a habit that, again, a lot of people say is super boring. but it builds wealth. There's going to be a point you're going to need that money in the emergency fund. You're going to need that money within the savings account. It is a habit. When you start living within your means, you will have money to invest. Now, number 4, we get into dividend investing. Dividend stocks don't promise overnight gains, but they produce steady income. This is the DRIP, or the dividend reinvestment plans, making sure that you are investing all of the dividends, automatically reinvesting all of the money from the stocks, from those funds, from those bonds, turning small investments into wealth over an extended amount of time. When we start looking at Charles Schwab, hypothetical $100,000 investment in a fund that tracks the S&P 500 in 1990, so we're going back 35 years at this point, would have grown to $2.1 million if you just left that money in there. Without the right reinvestment, would have been 1.1 million. Think about that. 35 years, you would have missed out on $1 million in totality if you did not reinvest all the dividends. That is where the true growth comes from. Not only the companies being valued, not only the dollar going, but also being able to reinvest and really make that dividend snowball bigger and bigger and bigger, pushing it faster and faster down a hill and making sure it builds up. And of course, none of this can be accomplished even when it comes to being bored if you have unnecessary debt. We are talking about that really high interest debt, that really bad debt. Debt, although it's sometimes beneficial, buying a home, possibly the student loans, it can absolutely drain your cash flow in its entirety, limit your financial flexibility of being able to invest. Car loans, credit card balances, personal debt, those eat away in your long-term wealth in their entirety. It is key to avoid debt, paying it off like the plague. This is the reason why when you think of the modern day millionaire that Dave Ramsey talks about, eliminating debt is priority number 1. Once that debt is gone, guess what, guys? You get to keep a big amount of your paycheck. You're not giving it all away in interest. You're not giving it essentially to things that you bought in the past for future you to enjoy when you start investing it. And of course, the final one that I leave you with, sticking to a plan, getting distracted by trends, social media, viral stock tips, decisions that are not your own, based in fear, based in panic, based in tariffs, can wreck your absolute financial progression. Wealth grows consistently through disciplined strategies, especially investing when the market is up, but definitely investing when the market goes down. A lot of people seeing a 10, 12, 15% dip in the market, they completely cash out. Guess what? They lock in that 15% loss. If you're buying, if you're dollar cost averaging as the market decreases, as soon as we see the rebound, and historically, we have always seen a rebound in the stock market, you're going to be up, 3, 5, 10x in the next 10 years, if not even higher, if you're buying it while the market is down. Long-term investors, again, we don't panic during market dips. We don't panic during bear markets. We don't chase the latest trend in its entirety. I have a plan. I stick to the plan. I am letting time do the work. And that's the reason my portfolio has grown like it has. Now, boring stories, not very exciting, but overall, when it comes to the strategy behind it, they work incredibly well. They rate here with the debt-free journey. We have a little bit left in our house and we are 100% debt-free. It's going to be super easy when we get into the retirement phase because we do not carry any debt at all. Even if we're looking at purchasing a used vehicle, we will buy the vehicle in cash, meaning we will have no interest. We will not pay additional, meaning if the car is $25,000, we will pay $25,000 for it and it will be done at all. In its entirety, it is going to be paid off. It gives us less stress, less losses, less instability. Having patience and discipline in the market will lead you to building long-term wealth. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.